on to our story number 2. A fresh twist to Jayalalitha's legacy battle. The Madras High Court has now ordered in the favour of OPS, ordering a fresh General Council meeting. Now, this essentially means the post of Party General Secretary, which is currently held by EPS, stands invalid. The order comes as a huge blow to EPS. The court has ordered a status quo until the 23rd of June. Essentially, there have been a lot of twists and turns in this entire legacy battle for Jaya legacy battle and this leadership tussle within the AIADMK between EPS and OPS. In the latest, there is going to be no single leadership. This is what the court has ruled. It is going to be a dual leadership, which is going to continue for now.
All the resolutions and decisions that were taken during the July 11 General Council meeting have been nullified by the Madras High Court. So this means that AIADMK's functionality comes back to square one. So this means that EPS is no longer the party's interim General Secretary, and OPS's expulsion from the party's primary membership and from the treasurer position, these are all nullified. So the party's functionality has come back to square one. So today, as we are talking right now, OPS is the coordinator of the party and EPS is the joint coordinator of the party. So that's the that's the situation right now as we are talking based on the Madras High Court order. So this is definitely a huge setback for EPS because he has been having this legal battles for over 2 months to be the single leader of AIADMK. In fact, he was chosen as the party's interim General Secretary, but now that the Madras High Court has nullified all that, he comes back as the joint coordinator of the party, not as the interim General Secretary. So everything has fallen back, and this is definitely a huge victory for O Panneerselvam because previously in most of the case hearings, the orders went in favor of Edappadi Palaniaswamy. So this might also be considered as the first a major judgment that has come in favor of O Panneerselvam. So this means that he is very well within the party. He has not been expelled from the party, and he is also on papers the coordinator of AIADMK. So of course he and his supporters must be very happy.
All right, let's bring in some more perspective here. Madhavan Narayanan, senior journalist and economist, is joining us on the broadcast, and C.Rajashekaran will also join us in just a bit. Mr. Narayanan, if I can come to you here, this entire issue has been going round and round in circles, literally, but now we are back to square one with the dual leadership coming back into AIADMK.
Let's be very clear, Avni. I don't like to call this leadership. It's only a working arrangement. It's unusual to expect a party to function without what is officially a structural leadership in which you need a general secretary. So if it is true that it's a joint leadership, it's only a joint coordination, which is not to be confused with leadership. So there are 3 points I want to make which are a bit confusing, but which is why we need further judicial intervention and probably or maybe independent supervision of the conduct of the General Council of the AIADMK. So let me first say that the High Court itself has been toing and froing, benches were shifted, and then OPS sought a change of judge on this issue, which itself is in a way controversial. The judge is not ruled in favor of OPS as much as a favor of the conduct of the meeting. But I would like to point out that in the controversial July meeting, OPS was physically present, except that he was not recognized, and there was a random raising of hands. There was no proper head count by the conventions of the party. So if you take all this into consideration, what we have is what you call a snafu, a situation normal or fouled up. But essentially, it means that a meeting has to be conducted, and if it is so, and if it is as EPS has sort of broadly shown that the parties, various rank and file are with him in terms of district chiefs, we need to actually, if it actually becomes the head count of the General Council, then EPS might still have its weight. However, the resolution passed in the last meeting also passed all sorts of resolutions, and one important thing was that it talked about a single leadership, and the single leadership was done in favor of EPS, and that is where the crux of the issue lies. Does the party General Council has powers under the constitution of the party to actually suddenly ad hoc shift it to a single leadership situation. These are nuances that we need to understand, and even media reports, I'm afraid, haven't gone into the party's constitution properly, and that is room for some consideration that both media and the courts have to do. So that is the way I see the situation, because you cannot have two coordinators like Tweedledum and Tweedledee claiming joint leadership. There is no such thing as a joint leadership in the long run, although there could be in the short run a working arrangement. That's what these two coordinators are all about. So I need to figure out what if there is a meeting, what if the General Council votes in favor of EPS? Does it have, does the party's constitution give him significant powers to actually move to a single leadership? And meanwhile, knowing Tamil Nadu politics, let me have the last punchline here, is that Tamil Nadu's politics is so fluid that a lot of the people who are supporting EPS might suddenly change their minds. Hello, how does it happen? The other interesting thing is that today, OPS has broadly hinted that if necessary, he's even willing to play ball or hug those who have insulted him. If you read between the lines, it means that he's open for a long-term rapprochement with Shashikala, against whom he walked out in order to first hug, EPS. So we would look like we might look into a Bihar-like situation where, except instead of the government, it's happening within a party, where one camp may come back to another camp after leaving. So it all depends on two things. One is what is the rank and file feeling. The other is who's actually going to get the party symbol, because ultimately that's what this is all about.
Yes, absolutely. I think that's also a very important aspect in terms of the party symbol, and if there is a split of any kind, or what happens there. But Mr. Rajashekaran, coming to you here, your perspective on where this really leaves the party, because there has been so much emphasis, so much focus between EPS and OPS and their supporters, and between them, their tussle between them. Where does this leave the party?
Avni, the basic bylaw of AIADMK, which speaks about the selection and the election of General Secretary and the positions and the hierarchy of the party, which says only the last cadre, each cadre of the party should elect the General Secretary, and henceforth whoever is being elected at the below the General Secretary level. That's how it functioned when MGR started this party, and subsequently it was followed religiously by Jayalalithaa. And Edappadi Palanichami was the first person to remove Jayalalithaa from the General Secretary post. On record, there was a bylaw, which a law created, amended, that she will be the permanent General Secretary of the party. And Edappadi had the heart and mind and the guts, I should say, to go against their own leadership, their own icons, and he earned the wrath and the anger of the cadres, majority cadres, who are really upset with Edappadi's attitude and behavior, are mute spectators. As rightly pointed out by a panelist, the punchline: anytime anybody can jump the ship. But here, today's judgment in favor of O Panneerselvam is going to make a huge impact in the minds of the cadres, who are the real bosses of this party, according to the basic foundation, the constitution of the party, which speaks about them, not about any leader who has self-proclaimed to be whatever he is today, including Edappadi and OPS. OPS is a leader selected and anointed by Jayalalithaa. Edappadi Palanichami was handpicked by Shashikala, and all this everybody understands. But 2,500, 600 people are not the representatives of the whole party, which claims that they have 1.5 crores cadres in their party as members. So all this put in a nutshell, we have to watch what next. But as of now, it is OPS who is having the last laugh, and he rightly has the support of Shashikala, whom he has sent a strong invitation by way of saying that we have to bring in all the people who have left the party and who have removed from the party. So Edappadi will have a tough time ahead. If he tries to go against this order, he will be succumbing to the pressure and anger of the cadres, because now uniting the party is most important than dividing the party. If they stand united, definitely they can win elections. If they are going to split the party, it's applicable to both OPS and EPS. Whoever is going to split the party or attempts to do that will definitely face the wrath of the cadres' anger. And Edappadi, hope he understands what is happening at the ground, and he cannot keep on purchasing on daily basis. That's what we understand from sources that, from very important sources, that Edappadi had paid money to the General Council members to vote for him to be elected as General Secretary, which has been nullified or cancelled by the Madras High Court order. It's become infructuous because the status quo on 23rd has been restored. So by default, it's becoming infructuous, whichever election had happened in favor of Edappadi Palanichami. So going by this merits, O Panneerselvam is going to make a real impact among the cadres' mind, who are the real strength of this party. That's what Jayalalithaa also did. That's what MGR also did. And he is going to be wise, because you cannot discount or you cannot underestimate O Panneerselvam's political acumen and his experience, because he was always a silent man all along his career. And Edappadi was on the offensive and OPS was in the defensive. Now today, he has got a chance to unite the party. Definitely he is going to take it forward. That's what I understand from his statement today. He has said very clearly, in the right sense and spirit, that all who had been quit or removed from the party should be accommodated back and unite the party. And he is ready to join hands with people who had insulted him and humiliated him and even attacked him. So this is a very strong message. The cadres will appreciate this statement from OPS, and Edappadi is only sending messages and feelers through his colleagues and his friends that they are going to appeal in the Supreme Court, they are going to fight it, they are not interested in joining hands with the OPS. And all this will only earn them the anger of the cadres who want the party to be united and win elections against the DMK.
Right,
so
right. Fair enough, Mr. Rajashekaran. I'm sure EPS supporters would also have similar things to say about EPS, and clearly EPS and OPS both are absolutely unable to get along. And Mr. Narayan, coming to you here, because obviously the two people who are at the forefront of this party are absolutely not able to get along. We've seen instances where OPS has been expelled. Each other's supporters, they have constantly been expelling. It's a complete mess of a situation. So no matter what the court says or no matter what anyone says, the fact is, if these two people are unable to get along, what is going to happen with the party?
I think it's very important that we take the focus away from EPS or OPS and look at the two leaves, which is the symbol of the party. Because people say one is OPS, the other is EPS, whereas the missing part is the one in the middle, which is Jayalalithaa. So if, as Mr. Rajashekaran says, the Jayalalithaa was the permanent general secretary of the party, it begs the question, what does the constitution say of her successor in case she is not there? And if Mr. Rajashekaran says that cadres are the important thing, we need to ask, like the CPM, does AIADMK have a concept of card holding members? Because cadres is too vague a word. In Tamil, we have this word tondar. Tondars don't count in the court of law. They only count if in cadre-based parties that have proper organizational structure at the card-holding level. If that is the case, then EPS might still have a way. But it all depends on how the judiciary, I'm pretty much sure this will go to the Supreme Court. I'm pretty much sure that these questions that I've raised just now may be asked either by lawyers or by the honorable judges. That's where the symbol lies. The rest is, there's a lot of rhetoric flowing in to and fro, and it all depends on who influences the others through various kinds of means, which Tamil Nadu politics is famous for. It could be based on caste, it could be based on region, because EPS is from the Coimbatore, the northern region, where his community has sway. Mr. OPS is from the deep south. Therefore, I keep saying what will be watched is what happens north of Madurai and south of Arcot in the coming days. A lot will depend on how influences is bought or sold or made, and people are suddenly in a very expansive mood to hug each other, and that means political promiscuity maybe in the air after the monsoon in Chennai, and we will be watching that space. But I would rather watch the judges than the cadres, because ultimately it's all about who holds the two leaves, because party symbols are extremely important and party buildings are extremely important.
Fair enough. All right, on that note, I'd like to thank both of you for joining us and giving us your perspective on this entire tussle between EPS and OPS and the AIADMK.